supposed to be a quiet night in the woods, but at exactly 3:03 a.m., she heard footsteps outside her door and a whisper that wasn't human. What her mother confessed next unlocked a family secret buried for 40 years. And trust me, you're going to want to see what they found beneath the floorboards.
The gravel crunched beneath Tessa's boots as she stepped out of her car. Her headlights barely cut through the thick fog curling around the trees like smoke. The woods were silent, unnaturally silent. No crickets, no owls, just the faint groan of branches swaying in the icy wind. She looked up at the house. A decaying two-story cottage stood hunched in the middle of nowhere, its wooden frame sagging like it had been holding its breath for years. One porch light flickered dimly, barely holding on. The windows were dark, like empty eye sockets. She hesitated. Her phone had no signal. Of course, the front door creaked open slowly, without her touching it. "Tessa?" A weak voice called from inside. Her mother. She stepped forward. Each wooden plank on the porch groaned like it might give way. As she crossed the threshold, a wave of cold air swept over her. But it wasn't from outside. The inside smelled like mothballs, burnt candles, and something else. Something metallic and old. The lights inside were yellow and dull, casting shadows that moved just a little too much. Her mother stood at the end of the hall, half shrouded in the gloom. She looked thinner than she remembered, paler. "You look tired," Tessa said softly. "I don't sleep much anymore," her mother whispered, her voice barely audible. "She walks too loud." "Who?" Tessa asked. Her mother blinked slowly, then smiled, too quickly. "No one. Come in, let's get warm." But even by the fireplace, Tessa couldn't shake the chill. They sat on an old, dusty couch wrapped in thick blankets, drinking lukewarm tea. The fire in the hearth cracked and popped, the only real sound in the house. Tessa tried to start a light conversation. Work, the drive, old memories. But her mother kept staring into the fire like it was whispering to her. On the table lay a stack of old photo albums. Her mother opened one without looking and flipped slowly through the pages. "Do you remember this?" she asked, tapping a photo. It showed Tessa at age 5, standing on the porch, her father holding her hand. "That was the day before he died," her mother said, her voice flat. Tessa's breath caught. "I thought he died in a car accident." There was a long silence. Her mother looked up, her eyes glassy. "That's what I told you." Tessa frowned. "What do you mean?" But her mother had already turned the page. More pictures, black and white, yellowed with age, but some had been ripped, faces scratched out. In one, a woman stood by the stairwell, eyes wide. Behind her, something blurry, a shape with long, crooked fingers pressed against the wall. "Who is that?" Tessa asked. Her mother shut the album suddenly. The fire hissed and popped, sending a few embers flying out. "No more tonight," she said sharply. "She doesn't like being looked at." Tessa blinked. Who doesn't? But her mother didn't answer. She just got up and walked slowly toward the stairs, muttering something under her breath. Tessa sat alone, heart pounding in her ears. The fire sputtered again, lower this time. Shadows danced on the walls. She could have sworn one of them wasn't hers. The stairs creaked beneath Tessa's feet as she climbed to the second floor, every step sounding louder than it should have. The hallway was narrow and lined with faded floral wallpaper, peeling in the corners like something had clawed at it. A single bulb flickered overhead, casting faint yellow light on the warped floorboards. She paused halfway down the hall. Cold air brushed past her ear. Not wind. It felt deliberate, like breath. She turned sharply. Nothing behind her. Just the long hallway, and darkness at the far end. She continued to her bedroom, feeling eyes on her back the entire way. Her door groaned open slowly, reluctantly, as if the house itself didn't want her inside. The room was freezing. The windows were shut. No draft. No explanation. She slid under the heavy quilt, but even beneath the covers, The chill clung to her bones. Her phone still had no signal. A notification flickered for a split second, then vanished. When she checked, there was nothing there. No app, no sound, just a black screen and her reflection. Outside her window, a tree branch scratched gently against the glass. But there was no tree near her side of the house. She sat up, heart thudding. The scratching stopped. Then came a knock. It was soft at first, a slow, deliberate tap. It came from the hallway. Tessa's breath caught in her throat. She turned toward the door, straining her ears. Footsteps, dragging, uneven. Something was moving just beyond the thin wooden door. She sat frozen, clutching the quilt. The footsteps stopped, right outside her room. Silence. Then came the voice. Not loud, not even a whisper. More like something breathed the words into her head. Where did you put her? It was layered, female, but with something underneath, something broken. Like a second voice was speaking in sync, lower, animalistic, echoing from a place that didn't follow the rules of sound. Tessa leapt out of bed and swung open the door. Nothing. The hallway was empty, still, but her breath fogged in the air. The temperature had dropped even more. She glanced at the old wall clock. 3:03 a.m. She took a shaky step out into the hallway. The light above flickered, then dimmed. From the far end of the hall, a shadow moved. Not fast, not slow. It just shifted, like it had been there the whole time, pretending to be part of the dark. Tessa spun back toward her mother's room. The door was already open. Her mother was standing there, pale and rigid, clutching something in her hand, a photo. I heard her too, she whispered. She's awake now. Tessa swallowed. Mom, who's awake? Her mother looked at her with wide, unblinking eyes. The girl who died here, the one they buried wrong. She doesn't sleep, not anymore. And then, from the floor below, 3 knocks. Louder, angrier. Talk. Talk. T-OK. The house groaned. The hallway lights died. And in the darkness, something breathed. Tessa stepped into her mother's room, the soft creak of the floorboards making her feel like she was intruding. The room was barely lit, the lamp on the dresser giving off a faint amber glow that didn't reach the corners. Shadows clung to the ceiling like cobwebs. Her mother sat at the edge of the bed, clutching a worn, black and white photo in trembling hands. She stared at it like she was trying to remember something important, or forget it entirely. Mom, Tessa said gently, what's going on? Her mother looked up slowly. Her eyes were red-rimmed and glassy. You shouldn't have come here. Tessa frowned. What do you mean? She remembers, her mother whispered. She always remembers when someone new enters the house. The silence breaks. She hears everything again. Tessa approached cautiously. Who, Mom? Who hears? Her mother didn't answer. She just handed Tessa the photo with shaking fingers. It showed a little girl, 6, maybe 7 years old, standing barefoot in the hallway. Her dress was old-fashioned, her face blurred. Behind her, in the photo's background, the outline of a figure with unnaturally long limbs and an elongated face could barely be made out. Its fingers curled around the doorway. Tessa flipped the photo over. Scrawled in faded pencil were 3 words, she never left. Her mother's voice cracked. They found her body in the wall behind the stairs, years before we moved in. They said she was buried, but they lied. Tessa backed away, heart pounding. Why would you live here knowing this? Her mother didn't answer. She just looked up at Tessa and said, because she won't let me leave. And now she won't let you either. Just then, every light in the room went out. Tessa stumbled backward into the hallway, clutching the photograph. Her skin crawled. The air had turned thick, like the house was breathing around her. She looked down at the photo again, but something was wrong. The image had changed. Now the little girl was looking directly into the camera. Her once blurred eyes were sharp, clear, and glowing faintly. The figure behind her was closer, Its hand was now on her shoulder. Tessa gasped, flipping the photo back over. More handwriting had appeared on the back. Fresh, ink still wet. You saw her. Suddenly, from the end of the hallway, a picture frame crashed to the ground. Glass shattered. She turned toward the sound, but the frame was upright. Nothing broken. Nothing has fallen. And then, behind her, a whisper in her ear. Where did you put her? Tessa turned to run, and froze. The hallway was different now. The wallpaper had peeled away completely. The photos on the wall were blackened, melted looking. The doors were shut tight. The floor beneath her feet felt soft, too soft. She looked down. The floorboards were swelling, warping, breathing. Something was beneath them. She backed up, her breath catching, until she noticed another photo had fallen from the wall at her side. In this one, her father stood smiling in the front yard of the cottage. Tessa was a child in his arms, but just behind the tree line, nearly hidden, was a tiny figure in a white dress. The same girl, and scribbled at the bottom, she remembers him too. Tessa stumbled down the stairs, gripping the banisters so tightly her knuckles turned white. The house felt different now, like something ancient had woken up. The air was thicker. Every breath tasted like dust and rust. Her heart pounded so loud it was hard to hear, until everything went completely silent. Not the peaceful kind, the suffocating kind. And then, T-OK, T-OK, T-OK. The knocks came from below, not at the front door, not at the windows, beneath the floorboards, right beneath her feet. Tessa stood frozen in the foyer, staring down. The wooden slats trembled slightly with each knock, as if something on the other side was pressing up, trying to get through. The fireplace crackled to life suddenly. She didn't light it. It shouldn't have been able to start on its own. Then the lights flickered, and the hallway mirror on the wall cracked. One long, jagged line split through the glass, and in that moment, for a second, she saw it. Not her own reflection, but the little girl in the white dress, standing behind her, motionless, eyes black as ash, mouth stitched shut, but still whispering. Tessa spun around. No one. She ran toward the kitchen to find her mother, but the kitchen door slammed violently before she could touch it. The room was now completely dark. From inside the walls, scratching, not like rats, like nails. And then, a voice whispered again, so close it felt like it came from inside her chest. You're standing on her. She looked down. The floor groaned beneath her shoes. A single floorboard shifted upward, like something beneath was pressing a finger to it. She backed away, fast, but from the darkness behind her, footsteps, slow, wet, slapping against the wood. Tessa didn't turn around. Tessa was trapped in a house she no longer recognized. Every familiar feature was now corrupted. Pictures turned to static, mirrors that reflected someone else, and furniture that moved when she blinked. She moved down the hallway, clutching the photo tighter. Her hands trembled. Suddenly, every light in the house went out at once. Total darkness, pitch black. Then, a whisper in both ears. At the same time, where did you put her? The voice was layered again, but this time it sounded closer. Too close. It wasn't in her head. It wasn't in the air. It was inside the house. Tessa reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She turned on the flashlight. Big mistake, because the moment she did, the beam lit up the hallway ahead. And there was the girl, standing completely still, head tilted, eyes glowing faintly white. Her skin was pale and cracked like old porcelain. The stitches around her lips looked rotted, yet they moved, as if whispering anyway. And worse, behind her, in the shadows, something taller, twisted, the shape from the photo, watching her. Tessa gasped and dropped the phone. The flashlight spun wildly, casting shadows across the walls like they were crawling. She scrambled backward as the girl stepped forward, not walking, floating. The air turned icy. Frost bloomed on the walls. Her breath became visible. The whisper grew louder, like it was coming from every direction. She remembers what you did. She remembers what you took. She remembers him. Then, the stitched mouth opened. The sound it released wasn't a voice. It was a scream, made of wind, of centuries, of pain. A sound that shook the walls and cracked the mirror entirely. Tessa slammed the hallway door shut behind her, gasping, heart racing. But the whisper didn't stop. It was still in her ear, still inside her. You brought her back. Tessa's legs shook as she staggered into her mother's bedroom, the door slamming shut behind her with a force that rattled the walls. The room had gone from cold to freezing. Her breath turned to fog in front of her, and the air felt thick, heavy, like something was pressing down from above. Her mother was standing by the window now. She was motionless, her eyes locked onto something beyond the glass, something in the night outside that Tessa couldn't see. She was whispering softly to herself. At least, Tessa thought it was her mother. Tessa. Her mother's voice was soft, but hollow. A low echo. She's here. You've seen her now. Tessa's heart skipped a beat. Her mother's back was to her, but there was something wrong. Her movements were too slow, too jerky, as if she was being pulled by invisible strings. The photograph slipped from Tessa's hand to the floor with a soft, eerie thud. She bent down, eyes not leaving her mother. You shouldn't have come back, Tess. Her voice didn't sound like it belonged to her. It was too cold, too distant. Tessa stood, trembling, her mind struggling to piece together the broken memories of this place. Mom, what are you talking about? She pleaded, stepping toward her. Please, this isn't you. But her mother remained still, her face fixed in an unnerving smile. The smile was too wide, unnaturally wide, as if her skin might tear from the stretch. She's awake now. You woke her. Tessa's blood ran cold. And then, the whispers returned. The same whispers from the walls, from the mirrors, from the depths of the house. You took her. You took me. Tessa turned around in a panic, her flashlight bouncing crazily across the room. The shadows in the corners shifted, slithering like something alive. The reflection in the mirror distorted, growing taller and darker. The door to the closet slowly creaked open. Slowly, the wood scraping against the frame like a warning. Tessa dared a step forward, eyes wide, heart pounding against her ribs. She reached for the closet door, but before she could touch it, a shadow passed across the mirror. The girl, the one with the stitched mouth, her reflection. But the girl wasn't in the mirror. She was standing in the doorway. Her hair was matted with blood, her white dress was torn, and her smile was no longer stitched shut. It was a gaping, bloody wound, dripping dark red. Tessa stumbled back, gasping. The air turned to ice. Her throat tightened as she tried to scream, but no sound came out. The girl stepped closer, closer. The temperature in the room dropped until Tessa's teeth chattered. She tried to move, run, but her feet wouldn't obey. The girl whispered, "You'll never leave, not until you remember what you took." Suddenly, everything stopped. The house, once alive with whispers and creaking floorboards, was now still. For a moment, Tessa stood frozen. What was happening? She turned around. Her mother was no longer standing by the window. The room was completely empty. The silence was deafening. Then, from the darkness in the corner, she heard a soft, echoing voice. A voice that wasn't her mother's, wasn't the girl's. "You've been in the wrong place, Tessa." Tessa spun around, her breath sharp and shallow. The voice sounded so close now, right behind her, but when she turned, there was nothing. She grabbed her phone, fumbling for the flashlight. Her fingers were slick with sweat. The beam flickered as she waved it around. And that's when she saw it. The mirror. Not the cracked one in the hallway. The one in the living room, behind the couch. Tessa's reflection wasn't hers anymore. It was the girl. The girl with the stitched mouth. The wide, unsettling smile. And then, a final whisper, in Tessa's own. "Now you remember." Suddenly, everything made sense. The girl, the whispers, everything in the house had been tied to her. Tessa had been the one who found her. The girl hadn't died in the walls. She hadn't died at all. She was trapped, just like Tessa had been. The truth was darker than Tessa could have imagined. It was the very house that had cursed them both. And it wasn't just the girl who hadn't left. Tessa had taken her place. Tessa's reflection in the mirror grinned wider. Her own stitched mouth opened, slowly, and she whispered the words that had always been there, deep inside her head.
I'll never leave.